I saw him on the Bill Maher show say the words, "We need to end the war on drugs now." Yeah. He said that. He said that on Bill Maher. Well, guess what? Bring it to the GOP debate stage.
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Mark Claire.
Welcome back, gang, to another episode of the Lions of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 140. You can find the show notes for today's show at lionsofliberty.com/140. Before I get into things, I want to quickly remind you about our awesome sponsors at libertymaniacs.com. They have so much kick-ass liberty and satirical gear, especially for election season. You can check out their electoral dysfunction section. And listeners of the show can get a 10% discount off your entire order by using the discount code Lions of Liberty. That's libertymaniacs.com. And now we're going to get into the show, which is, of course, not a normal edition of the show, although it's becoming more normal because we've been doing these episodes a bit more frequently lately. But this is, of course, another edition of
Rand Pauluses and Minuses.
Rand, Pauluses, and Minuses. And, of course, I couldn't do that without our resident Rand Paul aficionado, expert, connoisseur, if you will, Mr. Brian McWilliams. Welcome back.
You give me too much credit. You could do these shows well enough on your own, I'm sure. Just talking to a wall, mumbling incoherently as you're drinking.
That is actually what I do for a lot of it. So.
And we are drinking for this rare Rand Pauluses and Minuses.
We are, and we don't normally have adult beverages during these shows. But, we were originally hoping to record an episode of Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor later this week to cover the GOP debate. We're not going to be able to get that together because, hey, we're libertarians. We don't follow authority. And mostly because, we're busy people and couldn't quite get our schedules together the night of the debate. We will have a session next week talking about that with a very special guest that we're going to line up that I'm going to keep a mystery for now. But look forward to that. But we are drinking, and there's a reason, because a good fan of this show, Mr. Blaine Stansel of the Rough Tail Brewing Company, has sent us some beers to try. And they are delicious. If you say so myself.
Thank you very much, Blaine.
So we just want to give him a quick shout out, because I'm drinking some 12th round ale right now, which is yummy. And what are you drinking there?
I am drinking the Polar Night Stout. And you can find it at roughtailbeer.com.
Roughtailbeer.com, guys.
And you know what I like about this?
We are not being paid for that, by the way.
No.
I'm just telling you because we like it and it's delicious.
We're hoping Blaine will make enough money someday to send us a check. Fat check. No, but you know what's cool about this I like the best is that he's got food pairings on the back.
Yeah, this is cuisine, he really goes into depth.
Cheese, meat, dessert, nicely done. And also, cool. I'm a man, this is, it's good. I'm not a big hops guy, but I know everyone with a handlebar mustache that is around these days is. But he's got on the side different things that say maltiness, bitterness, aroma, sweetness, different ratings on a rating scale. So people like me can look at it
and decide if it has a level of hoppiness that you're comfortable with.
And decide if it's too terrifying for me to buy at a Whole Foods or where. If I find where it's sold, don't quote me on the Whole Foods.
Yes. All right, I don't know if it's at Whole Foods, but maybe after the show, after John Mackey listens to the show, I'm sure he does, a noted libertarian, the guy who runs Whole Foods. So maybe this could work out.
Damn well right, and he'll have us to thank.
All right, so if we are a little sloppier than normal, by the end of the show, you'll know why. It's because of the strength of this beer. So thank you, Blaine. But of course, I've been out of Dodge for about 10 days or so. I was just up in Maine hanging out, where Rand Paul actually was while I was there. But I was fishing on a lake, and he was, at some kind of presidential gathering. So we didn't cross paths.
So there's a lot of libertarians up there. Ron Paul did traditionally very well in Maine.
Yeah, I think Maine is one caucus he was supposed to win.
Yeah.
But they shut it down and all sorts of shenanigans. I believe you actually wrote about that 4 years ago.
I believe I did.
Maybe I'll even link to it in the show notes for the show, which you can find at lionsofliberty.com/140.
Bingo.
Now, what's been going on? I don't know. I've been out of town.
Yeah,
I keep hearing this.
Stuff.
I keep hearing things about this Kim Davis lady, and I know Rand made some statements that you disagreed with about her, so why don't we get into that first? But first, just give the quick 30-second elevator speech about who Kim Davis is, what exactly happened here, and, what's Rand's statement on the issue.
Surely. So here's the breakdown. People of the world probably know about this story by now, but Kim Davis is a county clerk in Kentucky. And what happened was Kim Davis is working at a county clerk desk, and it's her job to essentially do, among other things, issue marriage licenses to everybody, to straight people, to interracial couples, but also legally.
Whoa, interracial couples? What year is this? Oh, it's 2015. Sorry, yeah, no, that's right.
That's right. Well,
go ahead.
We had been doing a little time machine thing, but no. So she's, that's her job. It's constitutionally so. in addition to these, she also has to give marriage licenses to gay couples now because it is completely legal. It's been ratified by the Supreme Court. It is constitutional right. So, a gay couple or gay couples, I think there might have been several at this point, and probably more as the word spread that tried to get their marriage licenses, would go in. Kim Davis would say, nope, not giving it to you.
I'm already going to stop you, though, because that's not completely accurate, because she did turn down gay couples, but she also turned down straight couples. So she's doing that so she can say she's not discriminating.
Right, yeah.
But she is doing it in protest of the Supreme Court ruling.
Precisely. She's not doing it just to do it. She's doing it to make a statement that she's not going to sign. And she said she'd be happy to hand them a marriage license, but she wouldn't sign her name on it because it offends her religious beliefs.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. You don't have to believe in gay marriage. You can think that gays are sinners and they're going to hell and you don't want any part of it. But you cannot do that when you take a job working for the government, which has to respect everyone's rights on an equal playing field.
Okay.
Especially when it's just been ratified by the Supreme Court. So
what did young Randy Pants say about this?
That being said,
and I call him young Randy Pants because even though he's a 50-year-old man, I'm comparing him to Ron, who is like in his 80s. So he's still young, Randy Pants. That's why he's hashtag Randy Pants. Don't forget that hashtag, guys.
Ron Paul's very young at heart. Rand Paul's just young and everything else. So Rand Paul basically came out, he had several interviews on it, and he said that he objected to her being sent to jail. This is right after she went to prison. And which I do think was wrong. I think that was an overextension of power by the judge to send her to jail. However,
yeah, I mean, can't we just say like you can't?
Well, the people are asking for a fine.
I think it's a tough situation because I guess the goal. I mean, I don't like that she's put in jail, especially because it made her like a martyr for these crazy Christian wackos. Right. And I'm not calling all Christians wackos. I've seen Christians call some of these people crazy Christian wackos.
Well, I've seen a lot of libertarian wackos.
There's wackos in everything, but it's kind of hard because if you're not sending her to jail, you can't remove her from the job because she's an elected official. She didn't just apply for this job and fill out a job application and get hired. So she can't be fired. She's an elected official. So she'd have to be recalled by the Senate or by the Congress or impeached by a vote.
Impeaching.
Something like that, yeah. And that process takes months. So if they actually wanted to get the marriage licenses going, the only way was to physically remove her from her position. Now, I still don't think that's the right way to go about it. I don't like sending her to jail, especially because, look, now she's a martyr. Now she's coming out to Survivor. Did you see this? She came out of her press conference to the song Eye of the Tiger by Survivor with Mike Huckabee, who said, I would go to jail in place of Kim Davis any day. And to that I say, go and get in there, Mikey. Get into jail. Open up another spot on that debate stage. Which might actually matter for Rand.
How many voicemails do you think from Ann Coulter she has on her phone? I would say at least 442. Do you know who Ann Coulter is?
I do. I just didn't think she was like crazy Christian right. I think she's just like a neocon.
She's this huge deal. Well, that goes part and parcel with being religious.
I'll get her on the show and ask her.
Yeah, please.
Are you a crazy neocon or a crazy Christian rightist?
She's never turned down a media opportunity.
Please clarify.
But, so Kim Davis exactly has become a big martyr. But Rand said, I don't think she should have gone to jail, which I agree with, and, indefinite detention, etc., which basically is what happens when you're found in contempt of court. That's a whole other issue for another day. But he said that he supported her religious rights. He thought that she was, basically said that she had a right to make this stand and that she should not be fired and she should not have to resign or any of this other stuff. And that I took umbrage with because she cannot expect to do this job where she's an elected official for the state, which has promised equality to everybody, and then take this stance, which is very personal religious belief. And when you think about it, look, the government exists, it's supposed to exist anyway, apart from religion, completely. Because there's multiple religions. This country was essentially founded on the belief that you need to have a freedom to practice religion in any way you want. And so we can't have
including not practicing
it, right. And so you can't have somebody sit in a government office and say, well, I believe that God's authority is higher than the state, so I'm not going to give you a marriage license.
And I'm even fine with her believing that, but if that's the case, don't work for the state.
Right, precisely. There was a guy that commented on, I obviously, we write these stories for consumption, people, and you can find them at lionsofliberty.com.
Where can you find...
/RAM.
Oh, yeah, you nailed it. I was trying to even set you up. lionsofliberty.com/RAM for the full Rand Pauluses and Minuses article archive, of course, which is published every Tuesday at lionsofliberty.com, and these podcast editions are published sporadically, but we may have an announcement about that soon as well. But that's a little teaser for you.
Yes, but so I think this wasn't even on our own website actually, but it was on another website that typically will share content there fairly often, named Popular Liberty. It was a big website that we started posting on previously.
Daily Paul.
The Daily Paul. Yeah, the Daily Paul, which is where a lot of us got a lot of earlier ideas before we started Lions of Liberty. So I posted it there, but somebody said that, basically people had given up their right because they went and said, okay, well, yes, we were going to be sanctioned by the government. So therefore, they don't deserve to have the rights because they went through the government to get the rights, which I thought was the most ridiculous argument possible, considering the fact that Kim Davis, then by the same token, has given up her right to be able to discriminate on a religious basis by choosing to work for that same government.
There you go.
So I just don't see any way you can really defend this position.
Well, obviously, there are people that do.
And libertarians that do, too.
Well, yeah.
They're saying that everything, Rand Paul's so right about this, and I just don't get how it's possible.
Well, I'll tell you how it's possible. Because, and this is something that I've had an issue with in the past, and this is what kind of came up on Popular Liberty today. And basically, what some people will take is they'll take the constitutional position, and they'll say, well, the Supreme Court doesn't write law. And that's correct. They don't write laws. But they do rule on the constitutionality of laws. So they have ruled that it is unconstitutional to discriminate against gay couples by only providing marriage licenses to straight couples, to a man and a woman. They're not saying you have to issue marriage licenses as a state policy. But if you're going to, as every single state and municipality does, you can't discriminate. You have to, any two people that come up that want to get married, you have to give it to them. At the same time, Supreme Court gives an opinion, a ruling on law, but they don't physically actually change the law. So the argument of some would be, well, I've seen two different arguments. One, that, Kentucky state law doesn't allow for gay marriage, and, the law hasn't changed, so she's still following the law, even though she's not even giving them to straight people either. And the other argument being, well, nullification, nullify now. She nullified the Supreme Court ruling by standing up for her constitutional right to, have states' powers or whatever. People saying basically these powers are outside the realm of the federal government.
That's a straw man argument, though, because she's not standing up for states' rights. She's standing up for her own right to have, it's her First Amendment right to believe in what she wants to believe. And that does not, your First Amendment right can't trump someone else's right to equality under the law.
Well,
so I mean, if people can invent arguments all day and extend this into different realms of reality that aren't actually happening. I mean, look, if we're going to invent pretend arguments around the whole situation, we can do that. I agree with you. I could find a way that Kim Davis could be right by, again, by looking at states' rights and stuff like that. Yes, you can extend it, but at the end of the day, she is not arguing for states' rights. She's just, she's a religious nut who objects.
By the way, she's a Democrat. With all these religious rightists gathering around her, people don't realize she's a Democrat. She's a registered Democrat.
I don't know if you've seen the way she braids her hair, but Democrats don't braid their hair like that.
Oh boy. I haven't really paid much attention to her braids, to be honest. But I mean, okay, so it comes to this nullification argument and this is a problem I have with constitutional arguments. Like, you might be able to interpret the Constitution to say that the federal government has no right to rule on the issue of marriage. You can say that should be a state's issue because the 10th Amendment, it's not listed in there. I'm not a constitutional expert or anything like that.
We need Rico.
We do. We need our legal counsel. Maybe we'll get him on. Hey, let me call him up real quick.
ICO.
Just kidding. That's too hard. But what was I saying? See, this beer.
It's already impacted us. You're talking about how you're not a constitutional scholar, and you have an issue with constitutional arguments because
a lot of people call it a libertarian document. It's not a libertarian document. There's libertarian-esque things in it. There's many good things in the Constitution. Like, I think the Bill of Rights is generally mostly good. The Fourth Amendment, First Amendment, all of these things, are pretty good things.
The Second Amendment, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, the Second Amendment as well. We'll get to that. But they're not good because they're in the Constitution. You see what I'm saying? The Constitution is not a binding agreement.
That's a very good point.
It's not something we all agreed to. Even, Tom Woods talks about the social contract and how that's not legitimate. Well, the Constitution's the same thing. It's not an agreement between actual people. It's something that the founders of this country came up with on their own and then applied it to the rest of the country. Now, the things that are good in there, we should support. So, Second Amendment, for pretty much the whole Bill of Rights, we should support. But to me, the issue of rights, of individual rights, and having a conception about that, to me, that should supersede the Constitution. And nullification should go either way. If the Constitution recognizes slavery. So are you supposed to go, all right, well, hey, slavery's in the Constitution, so it should be fine. Even if and you could use that states' rights argument to say, well, all right, what if Kentucky, I don't want to pick on Kentucky. I'm not saying they would enact slavery if it was okay. But what if a state says, well, we want to enact slavery again? I mean, it's states' rights, 10th Amendment. I know there's been the 14th Amendment and all these other, I'm not saying that could actually happen or occur in our current society, because obviously that wouldn't go over, with our present mindset, but that's because people realized that slavery was wrong. And slavery's been repealed, and now slavery is something that can never happen. At least not in a legal sense of the word. So we have to separate what's constitutional from right and wrong. So, and this brought me back to an interview I did with Tom Woods, and I will post that interview here. I've been meaning to clip off this one clip for so long, so maybe I'll actually get around to that. And even Tom Woods said, and when he posted the interview, he was gracious enough to use this interview as an episode of his show. And I asked him the question, well, Tom, you're a big fan of nullification. You think states should have rights, and those rights should necessarily supersede the rights of the federal government due to the Constitution. And that's a separate argument from, he doesn't believe in states, he's an anarchist, but just in this current context, he believes that. So my question to him was, let's say the federal government legalized marijuana. They ended the war on drugs. They said, you know what, we're wrong. We realized the error of our ways, everybody, and we are no longer going to make marijuana illegal. We are not going to jail people for it. It's completely legal, and drug war's over, guys. But now you got maybe Idaho or Oklahoma. I don't want to pick on Blaine State. He's making fine beer there. Whatever. Pick a random state that says, screw you, feds. We still think that marijuana is wrong. We're going to put people in jail. We're going to violate their rights for having marijuana. Now, if these people that are defending Kim Davis want to be consistent, they need to agree that that's fine and right. That Idaho should nullify the federal government by putting people in jail and making marijuana illegal, and they should have the right, quote unquote, to do that. Well, I think that's ridiculous, because if something is wrong, it's wrong. If something's wrong for the federal government to do, if it's wrong for the federal government to put people in jail for marijuana, it has to be wrong for the states to do it, regardless of what constitutional, trivialities we want to pick out of it. So if we're going to be consistent as libertarians, you need to actually stand up for right and wrong. Not say, well, this is wrong, but in the Constitution, states have the right to do it, so blah, blah, blah. And that's my summary of my conversation with that, because it's just, everyone wants to say, but the Constitution. And my response is, screw the Constitution if we're talking about right and wrong. And frankly, there's nothing in the Constitution about drugs either way. So yeah, you can say it's left to the states, but to me, you don't get to violate rights as part of states' rights, And if you have a conception of individual rights, and you don't think somebody should be assaulted for owning a plant, well then you have to be opposed to that, no matter who's doing it. And I think most people listening are opposed to that, but they should equally be opposed to marriage discrimination. Now, these aren't the same things exactly, and it's a more complicated issue, because in a truly free society, there would be no drug laws, really, ever. I mean, communities could bar drugs from their neighborhoods and that sort of thing, and that's all well and good.
Well, of course, so there'd also be no marriage licenses, essentially.
Right.
There'd be private contracts like Rand Paul wants, which we both agree with is a good idea.
And that's where I was going with it.
Oh, good.
So,
Continue, sir.
No, I'm there. You got me all the way. You pulled me into the boat. So, I mean, I agree with that part of what Rand said. And but you thought that his stance, basically more in favor of Kim Davis, was enough to land him a minus for Rand. And you know what? Even though I don't necessarily agree with word for word with your breakdown of it, I mean, at the end of the day, I agree, minus, because I agree. He should say private. I agree with him when he says private contracts. This would be solved by private contracts.
And he's already gotten Pauluses twice before for the private contracts argument.
So now you get a minus for it, because, well, he had the caveat, but we should support Kim Davis and, whatever. Yep. And we shouldn't.
No, exactly. And the fact that he's waffling on it just...
And Kim Davis doesn't work for, Marriage License Inc. She's not a private company. Like you said, she works for a state government, And she got around it in a way by not discriminating, by not issuing marriage licenses anymore. But if you're not going to do your freaking job because of your religious convictions,
you can't have the job.
Then resign. I mean, that's what she should do. I don't know if she's done that. I know she's like out of jail now. I don't want to see the woman behind bars for religious beliefs. You want to be religious, and fine, go.
She can be a new Hester Prynne. She can have a big GM Red Scarlet Letter.
That's a hell of a reference right there. I wonder how many of our younger readers are even going to. Do they even make you read the Scarlet Letter?
No, I don't even think they can read the Scarlet Letter anymore because there might be microtransgressions in
Microaggressions?
Microaggressions, excuse me.
Or they've been educated by our education system that's producing illiterates, as you would know from my interview with Alex Newman.
Yeah.
Author of The Crimes of the Educated.
You can hear that. That was last, was it Tuesday?
Oh, I don't know. I'll link to it in the show notes. Don't worry. When you're at it, I usually know all my show numbers, but when you're fishing in the lake for like 8 days,
I think it was episode 137, but don't quote me.
All right, well, let's go with that for now.
All right, so, moving on.
But wait, I want to talk about why this was a very important minus for Rand, because he went into this past week.
A pretty big one.
Yeah, he went into this past week's Rand P&M. When you usually look at 3 or 4 stories, he was only 2 Pauluses away from
a mighty 100 Pauluses. We were going to have a party on this podcast. We were going to eat cake and have sparklers.
And he only ended up, out of the 3 stories you covered, he only got one. He only eked out 1 Paulus. 1 Paulus.
I did. Well, I had to we'll get
to the others. We'll talk about them all today.
He only got 1 Paulus, but we'll tell you what the other ones were.
Okay, so he gets a minus for that from Kim Davis for both of us. So what got him to 99? He is still very close. Okay, so this was something that's pretty much a slam dunk. But
yeah, there's a no-brainer.
How
here.
Could you mess this up?
Talking about no-brainers is our foreign policy, and basically, Rand Paul came on the Laura Ingraham show, and he's responding to the fact that Dick Cheney released a book with his daughter, who I didn't even know was a foreign policy expert, but apparently she is.
If you're the daughter of Dick Cheney, you're born a foreign policy genius.
She's been be-Cheneyed as a champion. So this book, though, argues that Dick Cheney claims that the withdrawal of American troops from the Middle East and from Afghanistan has led to the direct rise of ISIS. Now, Rand Paul called him out and said, that's total horse crap. There's a lot of different factors going into this. And Rand before had called out ISIS as being created by the U.S., a standpoint which I agree with, which, of course, Ron Paul agrees with. And that's basically based upon the fact that, ISIS has been, let's just look at the U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East for the last 50 years. There was this repetitive cycle wherein the U.S. goes in, destabilizes the region. Like, look at the destabilization of Iran. People think Iran hate us just to hate us, but we went in, completely ousted the people that were in command of that country, ousted the
elected leader of that country.
Yes, ousted the elected leader, put in our own dictator, who then was overthrown, and they brought back the Shah. And we're supposed to think that they're going to be like, "Oh, America, we love you." Yeah. Ridiculous. So they did that. I mean, look at what they ousted Saddam.
But they're evil
Muslims.
The
right? It's just because they hate our freedom. Right. That's stupid. So anyway, all these different destabilizations, and then you add in the arming of the troops. Like, for example, when we armed who? Al-Qaeda to combat the Russians. And then we go in and we're arming the Syrians. Now, who combined to create ISIS? I'll give you a hint. It was Al-Qaeda and somebody I just mentioned. The Syrians.
I was going to say Lindsey Graham, but you didn't mention him.
No. Lindsey Graham probably was on the front lines leading the attacks. So they armed the Syrian rebels, who were then combined with Al-Qaeda to become ISIS. So we did create ISIS. And their rise isn't attributable to America withdrawing from Iraq. Their rise is attributed to the last 50 years. So Rand Paul called out Dick Cheney and said that he has been wrong on foreign policy. The only thing he was right about was, I guess, in the past, Dick Cheney had said that we should not invade Iraq and that ousting Saddam would destabilize the region. So kudos to you on that, Dick Cheney, but otherwise, you're an imbecile who clearly...
Cheney gets a minus.
Dick Cheney gets a huge minus. 1 for that, and one
what
minus,
is he on, his
one minus
part?
for every pellet he shot into his chest when he was quail hunting or whatever.
Oh, yeah, no, he shot a dude in the face.
Did he shoot somebody? I thought he was shot.
No, he shot a dude in the face.
Oh, that poor man.
Who lived, I believe.
Reminds me of Army of Darkness when Ash shoots, Evil Dead. No,
luckily, and I mean, this is just, I'm
rambling now.
Like I said, a slam dunk. Rand Paul calling out Dick Cheney for his terrible foreign policy easily gets a Paulus! Double Paulus. So he's sitting at 99, and the world is on edge. So you got one more story this week. Is he going to make it? We already kind of gave away that he
I know, this is exciting. This is like when Willy Wonka comes out of the chocolate factory,
just
and
like
you think you're wondering, what's he going to do? Is he going to get to the gate? But guess what? Rand did the fall down, but unlike Willy Wonka, he did not do the tumble and get back up.
So what's this story? And let's talk about the grade here. An interesting
The last
grade.
story is that Rand, and this is an interesting one. Rand argued that more jobs would ease the heroin problem in America. So essentially, more employment would have less people doing heroin and less people overdosing. Now, this comes from a recent study that came out that showed that heroin overdoses increased from 2002 to 2013, something like a quadruple the rate. Now, that's still a very small amount of the people, but they did increase. So Rand's saying, look, if we give people more jobs...
Maybe heroin's just getting better.
Maybe it's getting fantastic. I don't know. I've got to try.
Haven't done it in a while, but...
My guy's out of town. So Rand basically goes, look, if we have more jobs, people aren't going to do heroin because they're not going to have time. If you work, you don't have time to do heroin. Now, okay, I don't necessarily agree with that. I agree with the fact that you could get more jobs. Yes, you could have more people that are employed, gainfully employed, that are not going to be sitting around bored, basically leeching off of the taxpayers and being on welfare or being on disability, which he goes into as well in the same interview that he did, saying that, the welfare state and the disability state have gotten out of control, which they have. So yes, if people are working instead of sitting at home and getting paychecks for injuries that are made up, you're not going to be doing heroin. Fine, I agree with that. However, I disagree with the fact that just having more jobs is going to solve the problem. Because when you look at it, the number of people that were using it was mostly white people. It increased across all income brackets. So you had a lot more wealthy people using it as well. So more jobs is not just going to solve that problem.
Is this a roundabout way of blaming immigrants on the heroin problem?
No, it's
immigrants
not.
are taking our jobs, and then they're causing...
they're shooting those jobs in their veins.
And then the people are using heroin because they don't have jobs.
Well, you know what? Maybe the heroin epidemic could create more jobs for immigrants because then the immigrants could just sell heroin. That's a whole other thing. Then they become rappers.
Hey, now.
That's how it happens. So, anyway, circuitously... I gave him a push on
What's up, Rails? We're about to jump off you.
Look, I'm sweating. It's so hot right here in LA, guys.
Blaine, this beer is good because I think we're getting tipsy. We haven't even had one each.
We're getting tipsy and we're sweating out all the liquid and replacing it with alcohol.
It is about 100 degrees in Los Angeles today for the
record.
record.
And it's easily 120 in this room.
Yeah.
We're full of libertarian heat right now.
Because I value sound quality over our personal well-being.
We are sacrificing for sound quality. So I gave him a push on it. I understand what he's saying, but I think he could go more in number. And what can he go more in? Attacking more so disability and how that, in my opinion, actually creates drug addicts. Because you've got people that are easily get disability payments like no problem. You go in, you make up an ailment, you get it, whether it's real or imagined. If it's real, okay, you're on painkillers. Then what happens when they run out? You're desperately seeking more painkillers.
And that's a real thing. I mean, people get addicted to opiates from using OxyContin and things like that.
Yep.
Then their prescription runs out or whatever. Obviously, they're only allowed to fill a prescription to a certain amount unless you're Rush Limbaugh and get like 20 prescriptions. And then a lot of them end up turning to heroin because it does relieve their pain and it relieves the how hooked they are on the opiates, which they've already been hooked up, which they've been legally hooked on by the pharmaceutical industry. So.
Yep. So
there are points to be drawn from this conversation, but we're the ones drawing them and not Rand Paul.
Exactly.
So you gave him a push. You were nice. You know what? I'm going to give him a minus.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wowza.
Yeah, I know mine don't count in your official tally, but
either way, he
on this
ain't
show
making
they
it to
do.
100.
Either way, Rand, sitting at 99.
I got 99 Pauluses, but a Rand probably ain't one.
Tune in, tomorrow, for those listening on Monday when this is published.
Yeah.
Trade secret just gave away. It's not a live podcast, guys. Guess what? That was what Rand did this week, and maybe it's a nice format that we just covered 1 week's worth of stories because that might help the future announcement that may or may not be coming soon. Mm-hmm. It's coming. We just need to organize some things. So stay tuned for a future announcement about that. And now the other thing going on this week, as we discussed, we were hoping to get together for a drinking session at Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor for the post-debate. We're not going to get to do that. We will get to the debate eventually, sometime next week. But in the meantime, what are we expecting to hear? Well, not what we're expecting to hear. What do you think Rand needs to do in the debate? Because, clearly things haven't been going well if we're just looking at poll numbers. I mean, I don't even know how his fundraising is going. I don't think it's spectacular or anything. But, I mean, clearly he needs to make some kind of impact if he's going to move, especially because he's on the cusp. He's right in that, like, the 10th spot where he could get kicked out of the debate. So what do you think Rand needs to do to really step up and get some attention and get some people talking about him?
Two things. Rand infiltrates in two things that are mainstream for the GOP. Number one would be anti-war. Because even though we're talking about the GOP, there's a lot of neocons, there's the people that want to still go to war with Iran. He's really the only one in the field that is anti-war, most of the time.
But Donald Trump was the only one against the Iraq invasion. Didn't you know that?
No, yeah, I'm sure Rand Paul was all for
and Rand didn't speak up a bit.
No, he was. Granted, he was, just practicing eye surgery and helping kids in Haiti even then. But
yeah, he's busy.
Yeah, so doubling down on the fact that he's anti-war, that he's the only candidate that does not want to have just open, extended war with Iran. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two would be...
What about a closed short war? No?
Just a little one? Just the tip war?
Just the tip. We'll just stick the tip of our missile into Tehran and then pull it out.
We're just going to put it across the border and...
show you what we're dealing with and then pull it back.
Yeah, that's all it is. A little unzipping in the fly.
That's the Rand Paul foreign policy, just the tip.
Yep. So, that would be great, though, if they just rolled up a giant pair of trousers and just had a giant zipping sound and the tip of an ICBM came out.
All right, we're leaving now, but you saw it.
Now we're going to put this monster away.
You know what we got now.
So, the second thing would be justice reform. Rand Paul is by far and away the leader when it comes to justice reform. He made all this time and outreach to engage the black community to try to get, make inroads there.
Hell, I saw him on the Bill Maher show say the words, "We need to end the war on drugs now." Yeah. He said that. He said that on Bill Maher. Well, guess what? Bring it to the GOP debate stage, because while the audience sitting in that audience might not cheer you, but they might if you pull it off. They cheered Ron Paul when he said, "What are you guys all going to do heroin if we make it legal tomorrow?" And they laughed and cheered and realized, oh yeah, no, that's stupid. But he needs to bring that Rand Paul to the GOP debate stage. Even if it doesn't get him over on the stage, it will get him over with the general public, and it'll get him... Hell, he can't get much lower in the polls anyway.
And you know what? This debate, more than any other debate, maybe the first one too, gives him an opportunity for these platforms because Donald Trump is drawing in everyone. Everybody watches this because they need to see Donald Trump.
It's the Trump show.
Even Democrats, Republicans, Independents.
I don't know if this is just Donald Trump blustering, but he had this whole statement where he said advertising rates went from 5,000 to like 200,000 for this debate. And he's saying it's all because of him. And he's probably right.
He's 100% right.
And he's probably right. And he's asking CNN to donate the proceeds to the veterans groups, which I find a very crafty move.
Yeah, that is.
I don't know if he actually cares one way or the other, but he's saying, hey, I'm bringing you all this extra money by my presence. You should donate it. Screw you guys, because I'm funding my own campaign, so I don't want to take any money from anyone. I mean, Donald Trump's got some... I don't agree with a word out of the man's mouth usually, but... He's doing some great stuff politically, aside from his actual positions.
Well, we can get into this when we do our post-drinking LIL.
Our Trump and Down podcast.
Our post-drinking.
No, we're going to do a new show, a weekly show called Trump and Down. Trump or Down.
I like it.
Right?
I love it, actually.
Because I think he's sticking around. People might have thought he's a flash in the pan, but
I think he's sticking around.
I don't think he's going anywhere.
But we can get into that more deeply. We don't want to bore the people. They can. Well, not that they're bored, but they can come back for LALDL when we go into this a lot more.
Everyone listening now is either not bored or they nodded off listening and are kind of happy.
Or hopefully they're googling this delicious beer and looking up on roughtailbeer.com.
Rough Beer. So we want to thank Blaine Stansel once again of the Rough Tail Brewing Company, because this was one of the most fun shows I ever did, and I have to think it's only because it's the first one we've been drinking during. That's the only X factor here. So.
I just hope they don't black out and they find me on the floor dehydrated.
Oh my God, we've been recording for 3 hours. No, it's a normal length show. So yeah, so tune in this coming Thursday. I'm going to be joined by a past guest. He's going to come back to further analyze not just Rand, maybe not even Rand at all, because he's never interviewed Rand as far as I know, but we're going to look at the other GOP candidates that this guy has interviewed. And of course, speaking of the Socratic interviewer himself, Mr. Jan Helfeld will be joining me once again to break down not just the GOP candidates, but he's interviewed Bernie Sanders. Well, he might be the only Democrat he's interviewed. Biden, if he comes in the race,
he's
I know
probably the best one you can grab.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, his Bernie interview was like 10 years old, but so some of the stuff we're going to be going back towards. But he's been putting out videos, analyzing Donald Trump, all these things. So we're gonna have a nice little chat with Jan and break down some of these candidates. And then the week after that, well, we'll do some other stuff. But we are going to plan another Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor session, discussing the GOP debate eventually. It just won't be right afterwards. So, any last words before we do a little sign off? Just say no. It's fine.
Live long.
No, those are our last words. All right, guys. Until next week, guys. Until this Thursday, me and Jan Helfeld are going to talk about the candidates. Until then, folks, live long and live free. Free from the clutches of Kim Davis and her marriage licenses and Mike Huckabee's jailing.
And her braids.
Those braids will wrap around your neck before you know it.
I think she might be some sort of tentacle monster, to be honest.
Number 9.
Oh my god, my ear.
Peace.
My ear hole.
Head of editing and mastering is John Dahmer.